Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazzo.
Friends, family in Christ, welcome our fourth show here in our new studios. And now we have our first in-studio guest on the new set. And we're so blessed to have Pastor David Roth, One Way Christian Church in Green Bay. Brother, welcome.
Thank you so much. And very impressive studio. I think even for a face that's made for radio, this actually might make me look good.
It makes us look good. And plus all the buttons they're pushing on the other side of the wall. Do you feel the heat from the LEDs?
I do.
It's very interesting. But anyway, we're blessed to have this new setup here. We prayed briefly that whatever we do here will glorify God and edify the body of Christ. I had a guest that I was just talking to earlier today about the fact that pastors generally, I mean, you can look at George Barna and research and tackling certain issues or not tackling certain issues for whatever reason. And pastors are generally not doing a great job of equipping the congregations. So one of the reasons we wanted to do a show with you was on the local level, what we can work on as Christians, how we can get more pastors engaged. And this is particularly the Green Bay, Appleton area, Northeast Wisconsin. But what we're going to be talking about affects the whole country. We're going to talk about different things in the media and the Johnson Amendment and other things. But let's just basically, first of all, the website, your church's website is owccgb.org. That's One Way Christian Church in Green Bay. Great church. I was blessed to be part of the Men of Iron Conference a few years ago. And it's good. So what led you on your path because I know you started later in life.
Yep.
You became a pastor, 8 years ago?
8.5 years ago.
8.5 years ago.
Yeah.
When you came right out of the gate, were you preaching on all these political issues?
I wasn't. But I've definitely learned over the past 8.5 years quite a bit going through the process of becoming a pastor. And what became clearer and clearer to me is that the church has kind of lost sight of its purpose. And, I think of Acts 2:42 as the purpose statement for the church, right? And the early church was devoted to the apostles' teaching, fellowship, breaking of bread, which contextually is communion, and prayer. But that devotion to teaching, I think, is kind of lost in the church in the sense that over time, because the culture seems to be having a greater impact on the church than the church having an impact on the culture.
True.
Consumerism is kind of infiltrated the church, and now you've got from the pulpit of this consumerism, like I want to make you feel good, so you come back, and we've lost sight of
not the job of the church.
Not the job of the church. And but through this process, it just became crystal clear to me that God's design is for His people, the church, to be the moral influence of His creation. And the church needs to start being the church. And to me, that needs to be the local church.
Yeah.
I think we can become overwhelmed as Christians as what's happening in our nation and globally. And we forget that we're the local church. And so why not step back into the public square and restore this nation, but do it locally to its Christian roots.
Yes.
I mean, this nation was founded clearly as a Christian nation.
Yeah. And there's so much re-education that needs to take place, not just in the church, which is important enough for pastors to teach the whole counsel of God, but in our government schools, our true history. I was talking with Paul Blair, who you've gone to a Liberty Pastors training camp yourself. They're doing this week, they're in Virginia doing a training camp on the Black Robed Regiment, on men of God, on pastors in the early days of this country who led, not only preached, probably thundered away from the scriptures, but they also set an example. They were willing to go out and fight also for the religious freedom and the freedoms of having their church and having free speech and all the blessings of America. We've lost that because Here's our transition, David. We've been duped into believing that Christians shouldn't be involved in quote unquote politics.
Yes.
And I'm thinking that's one of the most important things we should be involved with, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you think about God's creation, and part of his creation is the three governing institutions that he created: family government, church government, and civil government. Mm-hmm. And what's happened over time, I think, in the American church is that there's been the Johnson Amendment passed, Supreme Court cases, just socialism having an impact on the culture as a whole. And what's happened is the church has basically handed over civil government to the secular world.
We've surrendered in a way.
Into the godless.
Yeah.
And we've bought into this lie and deceit of, well, there has to be separation of church and state. You guys should not be talking about politics, but Jesus talked about politics. Jesus was involved in politics. And Scripture clearly, throughout Scripture, Old Testament, New Testament, speaks to God's design for civil government. Yeah. He's the creator. It belongs to him, and his people should be influencing it morally.
Yeah. And so many reasons why this is important, and we've talked about this so much on this podcast. Think about education, how young children are being, you might want to call it groomed. Many of them are being accessed by those who want to take them away from God, away from their parents, away from the biblical worldview, whatever gender you want to be. And, I wasn't planning on doing this. I see this article in front of me here. Wasn't planning on mentioning this. But there's a different worldview that is coming against the church, biblical Christianity, our history as a nation, and Christians, what we believe as being salt and light. Inside the Democrat Socialist of America convention, the socialists declared dominance over the Democrat Party now and set their sights on 2028. Yeah. So they're motivated, they're organizing. Now, this is the radical left, and they want to take over their party, basically. And who knows what's going to happen there, but the point is that platform is godless. You might want to call it demonic. Some of what they're pushing, socialism, abortion, LGBTQ, environmental extremism, and on and on and on. So let's bring it back to the local level, David. Yeah. That's why I brought you in here. We had a meeting with a men of God, a bunch of men in Green Bay within the last couple of weeks. We were talking about some of this that you put together, engaging locally for the glory of God. And part of the focus, you list off some of the problems, the things that's been happening in our nation, and some stats that are very sobering, which we've talked about on this podcast. We don't need to get into today, but you get to areas of focus. And that's where I would love for you to speak to a few things before we talk about other things like the Johnson Amendment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about areas of focus and how local churches need to. And by the way, I'm going to give you Pastor David's email before this is over. And I want you to share his email with your pastor. If you're in Northeast Wisconsin, we would love for you to join the next meeting on how the church can be more influential biblically and as responsible citizens here in upcoming election efforts. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, so we wanted to connect with a couple churches in the local area in Green Bay, come together and discuss these issues about, again, being the local church, and start building plank by plank and start focusing on schools, the public schools, focus on city councils, focus on the county board, Brown County, and really get a better understanding of what's happening in there. Create an awareness so that the church understands, in the church, the members of the church understand what's happening at the city council level, what's happening at the county level, what's happening in our schools, and organize in such a way that we have people dedicated to schools, for example, and they're identifying the agendas, the actual agendas that are being held in these meetings, and if there's any issues that the churches should be aware of, to go and speak out against.
There's so much ignorance today. So many people don't know.
Tremendous ignorance. And the city of Green Bay is a classic example. We've talked about how Northeast Wisconsin is considered and perceived to be a conservative part of the state, but when Christians don't vote during spring elections, which is a problem, is you have liberalism controlling the city of Green Bay. I mean, the city council of Green Bay, there's 12 council members, and 9 of the 12 are liberal. And so you've got only 3 conservatives. And what ends up happening is something that we got engaged with as a church body is we started attending a city council meeting because they wanted to ban conversion therapy, which is to convert homosexuals to heterosexuals.
They've redefined conversion therapy.
They have, and that's the issue. There's no doubt conversion therapy of old is terrible, right? Shock treatment, forcing kids to watch pornography. That's horrible. That's horrible. But many of these council members publicly were stating that religious counseling was considered conversion therapy and said it was evil.
Like biblical counseling.
Biblical counseling. Yeah. They considered it as evil. And so we went there to the city council meeting and voiced the truth. We shared scripture. And the resolution that they wanted to pass on that first evening did not pass as a result of us being there. But they created a motion thereafter that said, okay, we need to go back and write specifically what this resolution is to be all about. In the second meeting, again, we went back and shared the truth. They did pass it, but they passed it, they amended it to have religious counseling exempt from the ban. And so it's just a good example of how the church, if we just stand up for the truth, we can have an impact. We can have an impact. Yeah. Ironically, that same night, they passed a resolution to give nature personhood. So in the city of Green Bay, there's a resolution that has passed that trees, rivers, waterways can be considered people, and people can sue on their behalf. So that's what's happening at the city level and the local level, and there's not an awareness of what's happening. So we have got to be more aware, be more organized, more committed, because the other side and the enemy is definitely...
They're active and they're organized and they have funding too.
And well-funded.
So we've got to try to rally the remnant and do a better job, friends. And that's why we're having these important conversations. And I would say the city of Green Bay is probably similar to a lot of cities around the country where there's more liberals or leftists or Democrats on a board or on the council than there are Republicans. That's probably more common than we would like to admit because for whatever reason, Christians, as long as we have our freedoms, we don't need to get involved, or we've been told politics is a secular issue that we shouldn't. And that's just such a lie. It's a lie of the enemy.
And I'll say the reason it's right now such a big lie is because in politics today, the church is not moving towards politics. Politics is moving towards theological, spiritual, and moral issues.
Interesting.
And I mean, you name it, right? They've redefined abortion as women's reproductive health care. They're redefining gender, marriage. These are theological, moral issues, spiritual issues, so the church must be involved.
Yeah. We're going to take a brief pause in a minute, but I don't want to wait until the end if you feel comfortable giving your email address.
Yep.
So friends, write this down. You can, first of all, the website, you can contact Pastor David there through the website, owccgb.org, which is One Way Christian Church. That's in Green Bay, Wisconsin. That's where we are here. Well, we're filming in Appleton at Freedom Project, but we live up there, and you're the pastor there. So for those that might want to get more information on what you or we are doing locally, and to maybe pass your email along to their pastors, oh, Lord, I pray that more leaders in Northeast Wisconsin would get involved with this and try to see what we can do to right the ship, so to speak. Go ahead and give your email address.
Yeah, it's pastordr@owccgb.org.
pastordr@owccgb.org. You're not a doctor, but it's David Roth.
Yes, there you go.
Pastor DR. Pastor Doctor. All right, friends, we're going to take a brief pause. We'll be right back on Worldview Matters.
Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream.
Get free activation now with promo code DAVID. So there's a new article that came out. A leftist group seeks to save Johnson Amendment that silences church political speech. So this is Americans United for the Separation of Church and State, which is the second biggest lie in America, the separation of church and state. They're asking this federal court in Tyler, Texas, to allow it to intervene against a proposed consent decree that would free churches from a long-standing regulation that bars tax-exempt religious groups from publicly opposing and supporting political candidates. Well, we just talked with Pastor Paul Blair about, he was in the news about the IRS saying, oh, you can endorse political candidates from the pulpit. And Paul goes, nothing's changed.
Yeah, nothing's
We've been
changed.
doing it. We've been trying to get other pastors to talk about, quote, moral issues, but they call them political issues. But before we get into more of this, because the left is going to continue to hit hard to try to use things like this as a battering ram to the church. So in 2015, 10 years ago, I wrote a book called The Cost of Our Silence. And in that book, in one of the, what chapter is that? In the chapter called Separation of Christianity and State, there's a section called the Johnson Amendment. And you can look it up online. I did a blog on that as well, the Johnson Amendment and the agenda to silence Christians. There it is, the Johnson Amendment and the agenda to silence Christians. Let me tell you a quick story, and then I'll let Pastor David respond. In 2015, I did an interview with Jan Markell on Understanding the Times Radio and a few other rather high profile, for me anyway, interviews about the book, The Cost of Our Silence, and we talked about a lot the Johnson Amendment. Well, then I put this blog out, and right around that time, President Trump was campaigning, or this was candidate Trump was campaigning for the Republican ticket. And he said, one of the things I'm going to do is repeal the Johnson Amendment. Well, most people had no idea what it was. So they started Googling it. And since I had done these radio interviews and have gotten out there on the web, and I did my article and it was shared by a lot of people who wanted information on that, before President Trump mentioned that, people started Googling the Johnson Amendment when President Trump, at that time, candidate Trump, mentioned it. And my article was in the top 3 on Google search results when people would just type in the Johnson Amendment. And so people were directed to a Christian perspective, which I thought was hilarious. So thank Donald Trump and thank Jan Markell. But back to the problem with it, as we know, pastors did not have to self-censor.
No.
But that's what too many of them did. The Johnson Amendment came out in 1954. Lyndon B Johnson, a liberal senator from Texas, he was running for re-election, but some Christian groups and anti-communist groups, nonprofits were coming against him, putting out information against him. He checked with the IRS. What they were doing was legal. So he said, he must have thought, well, how can I shut them up? Let's slip something, an amendment about the IRS that may affect their 501c3 and threaten the pastors with that if they talk about politics.
Yep.
I'll let you share whatever you want about that, because I could keep going on this issue.
Yeah. So the key word that you said is threatened, because that's all it was a threat. Lyndon B Johnson and I think even the American United People for Separation. They're fully aware that this is an infringement of the First Amendment of the Constitution. So this is a threat. And unfortunately, it has worked. It has been effective. But a funny story on this particular issue, this last election with Congressman Tony Weed, whose district is in Wisconsin, in the Green Bay area, we were holding an event with him with Turning Point Action. At our church.
On church grounds?
On church grounds, yes. For him to share his story, his testimony, but also his positions. We prayed over Tony Weed. But 2 days before that event, I got a call from a national correspondent from NBC News.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Telling me, do you realize you're going to lose your 501c3 status if you follow through with this?
Oh, my.
The irony is, we as a church, when we established 8.5 years ago, we did not file for a 501c3 because churches don't have to. And that's another lie.
That's funny.
That's another lie. So I corrected him, said, well, there's no threat of us losing our 501c3 because we don't have one. But thank you for the call.
But isn't it interesting, David, that this is NBC? This is
NBC, national
news, battering or trying to threaten or intimidate a Green Bay church not to have a political candidate come in and not to talk about these issues.
Right.
First of all, they must believe the lie. They probably believe that maybe.
Yeah.
I really think a lot of people erroneously believe that, if churches could, otherwise more pastors, I would hope, would talk about these things. Yeah. And by the way, there's a thing called Pulpit Freedom Sunday. I think it happens every year. Paul Blair was one pastor that helped kick that off with the Family Research Council. Every year they preach what they call an election sermon. They talk about politics, they talk about candidates, and they say, you need to vote for so-and-so. And then they send copies of those sermons to the IRS.
Yes.
Not one, from my understanding, to this day, not one church has lost its 501c3 status. Friends, tell your pastor he can talk about anything biblical and moral from the pulpit, even though society and the left has tried to convince us it's political. Like preborn lives in mothers' wombs. That's not a political issue, friends. That's murder. That's taking a life of a child. So this leftist group, no surprise, they're seeking to push this. And so we need to move on, though, David. The article we talked about with Paul Blair was the pastors and politicians don't lose First Amendment rights in the pulpit. Now, this is over at the Daily Citizen. So I just want to quote, responding to the IRS decision, this is Kelly Shackleford. He's the president and CEO, chief counsel for First Liberty. And I'll let you respond to this. He said, First Amendment rights don't end when a pastor, church member, or even a political candidate steps on the platform of a church. The IRS weaponized the Johnson Amendment, and the left, they weaponized the Johnson Amendment to silence churches and pastors for decades. This recent development is great news for religious organizations, churches, and religious liberty. It is great news, but what do you think, in your speculative view, will enough pastors engage now that they know, I can do this?
Yeah, well, I can only hope and pray that that's the case. I do see, it's a small movement, but I do see a movement of pastors stepping up and stepping and standing for the truth. Ohio, I just read an article of there's 80 pastors in the state of Ohio that sent a letter to Kroger's Food, headquartered in Cincinnati, saying, hey, you need to take a better position on your LGBTQ because they're really promoting that. And in essence, telling them that they're going to be telling the churches, don't shop at Kroger's. You probably wouldn't see that 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm hoping that more pastors will step forward because, again, these issues, as you said, and we've talked about, these are not political issues. These are moral, spiritual, theological issues. And if we're not going to be talking about that from the pulpit, who is going to be? Who is going to train and equip believers to how to respond and what is the truth? And at the end of the day, this has to be all Christ-centered, and we need to reach the lost, and the lost are in the public square, and they're attached to politics.
They need to hear the gospel, but we definitely do need to get the church engaged. So briefly, I want to just go out to California briefly and talk about what's happening there. And Jack Hibbs actually warned, we had a video clip, but we don't have enough time to play it now, where he actually was warning his congregation, and whoever would listen, he put it out on social media, saying if California passes this bill, AB 495, Christians may need to prepare and think about leaving the state. Why would he say that? In Green Bay, in Wisconsin, we're kind of split here politically. Paul Blair doesn't have that problem in Oklahoma, very conservative, Christian-based. California, there's no hope, really. They're gone. Leftist, progressive. If they pass these bills, your chances of overturning that is very slim. So these dangerous policies have been enacted. And just your thoughts on Jack Hibbs coming out. And by the way, the bill would permit almost any adult to take custody of a child without parents being notified based on a caregiver phrase. It's just really sad, but it's really dangerous.
Very dangerous. No ID required. Simply fill out a form, sign an affidavit that you can pick up the child. You can also tell the school you can vaccinate this child. So it's just another approach by the enemy to destroy the family. And there's no doubt the consequence of, because they're trying to protect illegal immigrants with this so that they don't have to show an ID and pick up their child or have somebody else pick up their child. But the consequence of this, I mean, just think about a pedophile who will take advantage of this and say, well, I know Susie and I'm here to pick her up and I just need to fill out this affidavit, right? No ID, nothing required. It's terrible. It's terrible. And I agree with Jack Hibbs. If you're a believer and follower of Jesus Christ, I don't know how you can live in California with what's happening.
I lived out there for years. We've got a minute and a half left. I just want to mention that your keys to success at the very end of what we discussed in that meeting locally was to keep everything Christ-centered. And that means our discussions with other people, because people are so divided on political issues and on moral issues, really. Yeah. But we still need truth in love. Right? I'm sure you've done sermons on that. We need to keep focused on sharing the gospel. That's important out in culture. Setting aside territorial mentalities within the church community. Pastors saying, well, I don't want to go over there because anyway, we've got to stop that. We've got to unite and for the glory of God here and the preservation of our country, and then focus locally, showing up to elections and other things. But give your email address one more time.
It's pastordr at owccgb.org.
David, I had like a half a dozen more links and topics, media and other things that I thought we were going to get to, but you know how these things go. So thanks for your time. Thanks for coming in studio, and welcome to Freedom Project and the Worldview Matters new studio. It's amazing, isn't it?
It's a beautiful, beautiful studio. So congratulations.
Thank you. To God be the glory. Friends, David is at One Way Christian Church in Green Bay, 10 a.m. service on Sundays, and you can also find them on Facebook. But friends, we've got to get local churches engaged. It's not just Wisconsin. Wherever you're at in the country, start at the local level, and please get your pastor awakened, engaged, involved, whatever that means if he's not already. And we appreciate your sharing the podcast. God bless you. And as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter.